Hello my audience, today Truth Detective, the Finnish English British man, is going to be telling you my story of the internet addiction. And we are going to start with the fact that right now I don't have a computer. My computer fucking broke. And yeah, my computer fucking broke, so I'm just filming videos and I'm feeling some withdrawal symptoms in my mind, I have been, very depressed and I have been, feeling even suicidal because of this. And it's only the second fucking day that, I'm going through this, and I'm going to get myself a new computer for sure, and I would have to have upgraded either way because it has been, such a chore to do my video editing and that kind of stuff on my old computer. But still, I decided that I'm going to explain and tell you my internet addiction story. It all started when I was quite young, In my home, I was born in the 90s and in the middle part of the 90s. So the Amigas were around when I was born, I think. But we didn't have, computers until I was in the primary school. It was the 3rd grade. And before that, I had used some computers in my friends' homes and played some games, but mostly, I had been playing games on PlayStation. I had a PlayStation 2 and I played, Jak and Daxter and those type of games, and that. And I can say that the most amount of fun that I had with video games, it was with PlayStation 2 when I was young. And it wasn't when I, got all the best graphics card and that kind of stuff, but we are not going to that yet. We got our first family computer, home computer, when my parents divorced. And it was this old Fujitsu Siemens type of a computer running Windows Vista. You remember that operating system, Windows Vista. And I started, to play games on that, and we got an internet connection, and I read forums, and I was playing RuneScape, and I was using instant messaging, and I, started learning this stuff and becoming, hooked on that, I was playing Call of Duty 4 those time, Modern Warfare 1. Do you remember that game? Yeah, I played that like mad, I had 55 level or what was it, on that game. And there were no prestige, by the way, back then in Call of Duty 4. You could go to the highest level, you couldn't prestige, at least in the PC version. Did it even exist for the console? Yeah. But then I got to the upper school. What is it called? The 3-year school that you go through before high school. And I got myself a new computer, and that had an AMD 8-line processor and 5770, and I was playing Grand Theft Auto 4 on that, and I bought World of Warcraft from a local game store. I had one friend, at school, and he kind of pushed me in the World of Warcraft. And yeah, that's where my fucking 3 years of that, went by. I played WoW for about 4 years, and then I quit, and I got back into it like a couple of times, but I just never, felt like I did when it was the what was it called? Lich King, was that, expansion package, you played back then, I wasn't in the Burning Crusade, but I had one friend from Finland. I don't know if he watches my videos nowadays. I am not like in any contact with my old, buddies, so to say, because we kind of went our different ways. But, I found out that this computer wasn't really up to the snuff, and upgraded the processor. I played WoW on it much better, and then I got myself a better computer when I was at the last, you know, year of the 3-year school, you know, and I got myself a better computer. It had 2500K Intel processor and 7870 graphics card, I believe, or 6970 maybe, and the 6970 started having problems and I returned that and this kind of stuff. I was playing on that computer, I remember the game Mafia. Yeah, that was awesome. That was an awesome game, and I also played on that computer. A lot of you know, I got really, you know, into this, you know, single player type of stuff, you know, and I played, you know, all those games, and on that computer I believe I really, you know, got into like using Spotify also, like for listening to music. Before that, you know, Spotify wasn't around so much, and you had to download, you know, torrents, and I used Pirate Bay, and you know, I know all of this stuff. And then when I went to the vocational school, I decided when I was, you know, on the 9th grade, and I was starting to get pretty depressed, you know. I was like hooked to like technology, and I was spending all my time on the computer, you know. I was even, you know, I was skipping school, and I was also, you know, going to school very, very tired. And I was just spending so much time on the computer. I was just sitting on my ass, you know, playing mainly, you know, World of Warcraft on there. And then when I went to vocational school, there was this, you know, this summer break, and I got myself a PS3 when I was at the last year of the upper primary school, you know, ladder, you know, that's like 3 years. I got myself a PS3, Red Dead Redemption and Final Fantasy 13, and I was playing Final Fantasy 13 through the whole summer, and I was kind of like, I was so anxious about going to vocational school because I wasn't really sure. I had to go to another town actually, and then I got a place in my own town from like a computer. It was called ICT, and I went there, and I was the last to be picked to that class, but I went through 3 years of that, and I was depressed as shit at one point, you know. I started taking antidepressants, and I was playing a rhythm game called Osu, and I was on the computer all the time. And I had this habit, you know, of waking up in the morning hours and spending like 3 to 4 hours on the computer, and then like watching anime and that kind of stuff, playing some Osu, and yeah, and chatting up with some buddies that I had, you know. I had one friend in United Kingdom actually. Yeah, I forgot that guy, you know. I had that one guy, you know, in United Kingdom. Holy shit, how did I forget his? Yeah, like what was the guy's name, you know? I can't remember, but I'm pretty certain that he has not found my videos, but if he has, you know, he's pretty good at the detective work. But you know, he was kind of the same kind of neat mentality as me, so we kind of chatted up a lot, and I got a bit better, you know, in English, and yeah. And then there happened this, that when the army started, in Finland there's a mandatory army. I got, you know, I didn't have to go there because of my mental health problems, and I was going through therapy. And when at the vocational school, they kind of, I was going through this half of a year of like training, and I was, you know, doing computer work there, you know, like doing stuff with leased computers and you know, just, you know, basic computer work. A lot of, you know, machines that you have to upgrade and, you know, handle, and, you know, leased machines are a pain in the ass. And I just, you know, at that point I was so done with computers. I was so done with kind of I was so done with this stuff that when I, you know, graduated from that school, I was starting to get addicted to smoking weed, you know, because when I was really depressed, I started to smoke weed also. So then the next couple of years, you know, went by so that I was playing around with Linux somewhat. When I was in the vocational school, I got into virtual machines and I started to use Linux more. I had, you know, I believe that at some point, you know, I had 2 desktop PCs or 3 and like 4 laptops and a couple of tablets and, you know, smartphone, and I wasn't happy, you know. It was a shitty life, you know, being that fucking fat ass nerd, you know. And I decided that at some point I'm going to change. And I was going to therapy, and my therapist kind of pushed me into a direction that you should kind of, you know, let go of this gaming stuff. And it happened like this, that I sold my main computers that I was still running 2500K from Intel, that I bought like, I ran that processor for like 7 years, you know. It was great. It was a great processor. And I had, you know, this audio card on that computer called the Scarlett. You probably know about that if you are a nerd. And it didn't work right with Linux, so I started to sell some of my hardware away, and I decided that I'm just going to play console games, you know. At that point, you know, I was smoking weed a lot, and I was listening to rap music, you know. There was this one rap group called Devilish Trio that I listened to a lot, and then I played, you know, Call of Duty Black Ops 3. I was playing that on the first on the computer and then on PlayStation 4. And I was like hooked to that game. I was high all the time, I was high all day, and I was playing that game and I was unemployed, you know? It was just my life, and, you know, I had a lot of buddies that were going through the same, you know, type of stuff. Maybe they have found something in their life, so they have, you know, died. I don't know about those guys. Probably some of these guys are not even alive anymore, but I hope they are. And I hope that there's something going on in their life. But when I quit those drugs, I was, you know, I became a Linux user. And it was the first time in my life that things started to kind of click into place. You know, I was kind of like starting to use the internet for learning stuff. And I found this website called Coursera. And I started to learn, you know, stuff through there, and I quit playing video games. I played some, you know, old school, you know, these, you know, retro games, you know, on the emulators, and then I quit that also. And I was just, you know, kind of, you know, stopping this stuff, and I was kind of like, also, I watched still some anime, but at some point, you know, I decided, you know, when I was going through therapy, I just said to my therapist that I have to stop this. You know, and my therapist was like, why do you have to stop this? Why do you have to give it up? And I was just like, there's just something that it just isn't making me happy, you know. And yeah, and it was a time I had to let go of a lot of, you know, addictions, you know. I let go of the addiction to, you know, psychiatric drugs, to weed, to alcohol, to cigarettes, and to video games, and to porn. You know, I've let go all of these addictions, and I actually smashed the screen of my iPad. Can you believe that? I was done, you know. I smashed the screen of my iPad, and, you know, I got rid of almost all of my computers, and I just had, you know, one ThinkPad left, and I used that, and I had this, you know, it was a fine setup, you know, it was a fine setup. And then something happened, you know. I went 1 year without the internet. I was going through that therapy, and I got really interested in reading, and I was reading a lot of books. And my therapist, you know, kind of, you know, inspired me to kind of, you know, get the imagination like going. And then I started to, you know, write more, and I started writing. It all started with just a, you know, journal and a pen. But I got rid of my smartphone, and that happened back when I was still smoking weed. I sold my iPhone. because I just realized that holy shit, this thing's so invasive, you know. I was just, you know, so done with people sending me messages. I just wanted to be, you know, this isolated guy. And back then I was watching a lot of, you know, movies that I downloaded from the internet, you know. I was a fucking pirate all the way. So now that when I do this stuff and nobody pays for it, it's kind of like karma. Because I was the biggest fucking pirate you will ever fucking see, you know, in my youth. You know, I didn't pay shit for any of this stuff except, you know, video games. And I bought a lot of manga, actually. I was also into that. So I was really into this Japanese culture stuff. I had some anime figurines, and I also got rid of those because, you know, when I was going through therapy, I just decided that I have to fucking change this life, you know. There has to be something more, and there was. And then when I, you know, got out of the therapy, I started to use computers again, but in a different way. I started my YouTube channel and I started cycling more, and I was listening to audio books and podcasts and also music through my ThinkPad that I always had in my backpack when I was cycling. And when I was going through therapy, I bought myself a hybrid bike. It was one of the best, you know, like investments in my life. It was 700 euros back then, and it was by a manufacturer called Sirius. And it's a very nice bike manufacturer, very well designed bikes made for the human body. But I got really good at cycling, and I'm not going to tell you my sportsman, you know, story, but it kind of happened because I got into Linux, and then I went through this therapy, and my therapist had been in his past, you know, cycling on velodrome. So I went through a lot of stuff. And I have been using now Linux for 6 or 7 years, and my Fedora Linux installation that I had, it was about 2 years old now that, you know, my computer broke, or the disk of the computer broke. But I'm getting a new computer because I want the fastest i7 processor that you can get right now, and I just want, you know, to be able to edit videos and do photo editing and that kind of stuff without any hiccups and that kind of stuff. So I'm thinking that I will stick to Linux. And last year, let's go back a little bit. Last year I went to Helsinki because I was dealing with my cycling injuries. You know, I did hardcore cycling for about 3 years, and I got injured. So I went to Helsinki, and I was just asking a lot of questions from people, and I was planning to buy an iMac, a 24-inch iMac. And then I decided that I'm not gonna get this machine. I'm not going to become a Mac user, and I'm going to spend this money I spend it on clothes. You know, at least a couple of times what the iMac cost I spent on clothes. Because, you know, I had worked on myself so much, I wanted to look good. And after that, you know, I had been, you know, writing quite a lot with a fountain pen. When I, you know, got injured, I got into fountain pen writing really hardcore. And then last year I started going to the library, and I was looking at people at the library and how they are so hooked to their laptops and their smartphones and the internet. And I kind of saw my past, and I saw the design of these things so clear. I let go of these things so like long ago, and I became a Linux user. And I look at these people and I'm going like, you are missing out on so much stuff, you don't even have a clue what you are missing out on. And I know what I'm missing out on because I've been in that world, you know. And I was just looking at it, and I was always, all day, all night, I'm writing with the fountain pen nowadays. I got the nicest fountain pens and the nicest notebooks, and I just, you know, became a little bit more old-fashioned. You know, I started wearing these fedora hats, and I kind of, you know, through that therapy thing, I let go of the internet wholly for a while, and then I come back and I use it differently. and I use it to become a creative person. And what you see right now on my channel, you know, last year I was starting to make fans, you know, even in the real life I started to meet a lot of people, you know, almost every day I met somebody who had watched my videos, and I was pushing myself to the people, and I'm going to continue doing that like next year, but I'm going to come back as a different person than what you saw, you know, last year. It's going to still be Truth Detective, but it's going to be a little different. I'm going to be in the world a little different, you know, kind of a, you know, a character, a clown or an actor, you know. I probably won't be talking to you anymore in the normal way, you know, and I'm going to experiment with that and going to see what happens. So this is how I became who I am. I spent huge amounts, you know, of my life on these fucking things and these virtual realities, and the funny thing is that I never got that into that virtual reality thing because it was just starting to happen. I have no idea what it has been happening in this technological stuff, you know. I have been, you know, just living in the Linux land, and in the Linux land you can do away without, you know, all those virtual reality goggles and your GPUs and that kind of stuff. And I'm just going to say to you in the last part of this video, and I'm going to make a video about this: how many fucking nuclear plants is there to power all those fucking GPUs that you use to play your shitty video games in the world? You know? I have been using for the longest time an Intel NUC computer. That doesn't require much power. And man, life has been better in some ways. But also some bad things have happened, because I started to use my time differently. So maybe on a grand scale these addictions have a reason, but still it's such a depressing life that I was willing to pay the price. You know. Thanks for watching.